Okay, we have about 2 minutes to showtime. 2 minutes to showtime. Just waiting for the chat room to fill up. This will be America Free Radio. Good to see you out there, Tony M., Scott J. Truth Frequency. Excellent, excellent. Just going through the break right now. It'll be about 1 minute. We'll bring the studio on. Got news. We have a guest tonight, Celestine Starr, who's going to be presenting at the Mount Shasta event this August. Great to see everyone out there. Brad, Joshua, thanks for coming by. D-Live is already live. We're happy to see those people in. Okay, let's go ahead and about 10 seconds we'll bring the studio in. About 1 minute of national news is all I can take anymore.
Killed and 3 wounded by gunfire after an altercation outside a bar in Youngstown, Ohio. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is expected to travel to the Middle East in the coming days to meet with Israeli and Palestinian counterparts as a 3-day-old ceasefire remains intact. Blinken on ABC's This Week.
President Biden's been very clear that he remains committed to a 2-state solution. Look, ultimately, it is the only way to ensure Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state, and of course, the only way to give the Palestinians the state to which they're entitled. That's where we have to go. But that, I don't think, is something for necessarily for today.
The current ceasefire comes after 11 days of deadly attacks between Israel and Hamas. America is listening to Fox News.
You're still running your business on QuickBooks?
Your protection from deception. This is Truth Frequency Radio.
First hour, here we go. And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. In here, the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. We have several announcements to make tonight. Celestine Starr is going to be coming on with us at the bottom of the hour for at least 30 minutes, maybe more. We'll see what happens. She's going to be one of the personalities and leaders at the Mount Shasta event this August, and we want to introduce you to her so you can get to know her and be even more motivated to come to the event. Chat room is full of people. Blue Water's there. Colleen is there. Papa Susie's there. All my, there's a bunch of YouTube people. Now we got D-Live people coming in. You're saying no audio on D-Live? It might just be you, because I think DLive is good to go. Yeah, it looks like it's live to me. So you might just want to check your settings. All right, let's get started. We have a ton of news to go over. First story is on space junk law. And it's not what you think. You know, we often talk about, the law east of the Pecos, or in this case, the law north of the atmosphere. And on the 8th of May, if you'll recall, a piece of space junk from a Chinese rocket fell uncontrolled back to Earth, and fortunately it landed in the Indian Ocean near the Maldives. Now, a year ago, May 2020, another Chinese rocket made the same fate when it plummeted out of control into the waters off the West African coast. Now, really, no one knew when or where either of these pieces of space junk were going to hit. They just totally lucked out. Space debris is really any, non-functional, human-made, doesn't have to be human-made, I suppose, object in space. As a professor of space and society focused on space governance, I've noticed that there are 3 questions the public always asks when falling space debris gets into the news. The first one is, could it be prevented? Well, yeah, it could with a lot of investment and maybe some good stewardship. What would have happened if there were damage? And how will new commercial companies be regulated as space activities and launches increase exponentially? So, for space law to be effective, it really needs to do 3 things. First, regulation has to prevent as many dangerous situations from occurring as possible. You got to take steps ahead of time. You got to plan these things out. You got to, put that last little retro rocket on that baby so that when it gets out of commission, you can point it toward the sun and launch it into nowhere land. Of course, populations on the sun might get pissed, but I doubt it. And second, there needs to be a way to monitor and to enforce compliance. Now, I don't know if that means shoot the damn thing out of the sky or go capture it and hold it ransom. I don't know. But finally, laws need to lay out a framework, we're talking about regulations here, for responsibility and liability if things go wrong. It's sort of like if you build an automobile and you put it out there on the road and through some design flaw or workmanship at your factory, the brakes fall off or the steering wheel falls off in the person's hand or the windshield falls out and, the wind hits the driver in the face in a hailstorm, negligence. Then the company is going to be liable for what goes wrong after that happens. If the person gets injured or crashes the vehicle into another or a home or a business or causes a massive pileup on the freeway, you're going to be liable for that. So that's what we're talking about, putting regulations in place to prevent that from happening. It's okay to say, well, sorry we wiped out that neighborhood with our retro rocket or our third stage base unit that crashed into Los Angeles. Sorry, everyone. No, we have to prevent that from happening. So people ask the question, what happens if a rocket lands on your house? Imagine that. Instead of landing in the ocean, you get a Amber Alert or I don't know what you call it, titanium alert on your phone. Hey, your home where your GPS is saying you're located on your phone is saying you are at ground zero. This thing is going to come down right next to you. Get out of the way. What do? Well, according to the 1967 Outer Space Treaty and the 1972 Liability Convention, you notice that these things are like way back in the middle of the last century, right? They haven't been upgraded. They haven't been thought about. People have been too concerned with finding out whether Donald Trump colluded with the Russians than to upgrade space treaties and conventions. Because both of these were just adopted by the United Nations, which is, about like getting them adopted by the Deputy Chief Director of Paper Towels. The treaties declare that states are internationally responsible and liable for any damage caused by a spacecraft, even if the damage was caused by a private company from that state. Elon Musk. According to these laws, your country wouldn't even need to prove that someone had done something wrong if a space object or its component parts caused damage on the surface of the Earth or to normal aircraft in flight. Basically, if a piece of space junk from China landed on your house, your own country's government would make a claim for compensation, kind of like, when a virus lands on your house and it gets you all sick, right? The government is going to step in there and is going to go after China for compensation, right? That didn't happen, did it? No, it didn't. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Freedom, in the super chat on YouTube. Made a very generous contribution. Says, all right. It's a description of a character. Para-character looking at himself in the mirror saying, thanks for being you, with hearts popping out of his eyes. Thank you so much. I'm humbled. You have to know all the money that's donated to this program through Top Chat or Facebook or Stripe or Venmo or any of those methods, and you can donate to us through any of those or become a Patreon to us. All that money goes into a fund. It's a separate bank account. We don't spend the money on anything. It is dedicated to building up enough money to do a GoFundMe project to raise the down payment for the North Pole Inner Earth expedition. So all that money accumulates in there. It does work. Some of it's in the stock market. Some of it's in silver. We're just not putting it all in cash. It's not just sitting there in a checking account doing nothing. It's trying to grow. And when it gets to about $60,000, we're going to pull the trigger on the GoFundMe. It takes about $30,000 to do the initial GoFundMe. It takes about $30,000 for additional marketing. We're fairly confident that the company we're working with is going to be able to reach out to those 40 million fans that we have for the Hollow Earth expedition. And by the way, if you looked at my Facebook today, you'll notice that the Hollow Earth expedition website got a little facelift today. Go check it out. Lots of good information there, and you can go with us. You could go with us. And for as little as, I think it's a little as $6 or so, it's really inexpensive. Anyway, while the chances are slim to none that a broken satellite will land on your house, what you, I guess, really hope for is that it lands on your farm somewhere out, inside your fenced area, but not on top of any building. And that way, it's yours, and you could sell it. All the titanium and gold and platinum and everything that's in there, plus, if there's high technology, then you could call up North Korea or China and say, hey, a couple $1 million ought to make a square. Anyway, in 1978, Soviet Cosmos 954 satellite fell into a barren region of Canada's Northwest Territories. But when it crashed, this is not good. When it crashed, it spread radioactive debris from its onboard nuclear reactor over a wide swath of land. Now, a joint Canadian-American team began a cleanup effort that cost Canada $14 million Canadian. And the Canadians requested $6 million from the Soviet Union, but the Soviets paid only $3 million in the final settlement. This was the first and only time the liability convention has been used when a spacecraft from one country crashed into another. When the liability convention was put into use in this context, 4 governing norms emerged. And this is kind of what we do. We take the best practices from this, but we're talking 1978 here, Earth Explorers. Countries have a duty to, A, warn other governments about debris, and I don't think the Chinese did anything except cross their fingers that it was going to land in the ocean. Provide any information they could about a pending crash, like, hey, I hate to tell you this, but there's a couple of nuclear weapons on this, and we kind of like to have them back. Or what is very common is they put plutonium batteries on them. Plutonium batteries are nice because they do provide energy for 8 to 10 years, and maybe longer if they're supplemented with solar panels. But they also provide heat, and the heat can protect some of the electronics against the cold blackness of space. Many of the rovers that have been put up on various planets have plutonium batteries in them. And the fourth is to compensate your government for any injuries that might have resulted. However, if you owned a small orbiting satellite that got hit by a piece of space junk in space, you and your government would have to prove who was at fault, who was on course, and who was off course. Now, currently, there's no globally coordinated space, traffic management system. There just isn't. If your satellite's not able to move out of the way, sooner or later, it's probably going to get clobbered. There are tens of thousands of tracked pieces of space debris in orbit, but there are multitudes of smaller, untrackable pieces, bolts, screws, panels, cables, tethers. And figuring out what destroyed your satellite is going to be a very difficult thing to do when it's splattered all over low Earth orbit. And as you know, if you've listened to this program for any amount of time, space debris is a big freaking problem. If you wanted to develop a company that could make you a lot of money and provide for you and your family and your grandkids, you could develop a space junk recovery and disposal company. Current space laws worked out so far because there has not been a big issue yet. They've been few and far between, I'll put it that way. And as more and more spacecraft take flight, the risk to property or life will inevitably increase, and this liability convention is going to change. It's going to change. It's going to get more rigorous. They're going to put more regulations in place. It's going to be maybe cost prohibitive to put these Starlink satellites up there, because right now they're just like 300-pound drink coolers with radio capabilities in them, and they're set up there in a big grid, but they're not able to move out of the way. They're not able to protect themselves. They're not able to detect when some 9/16 bolt. I hope they're not using 9/16 bolt, but maybe it's metric. Zooming along at 20,000 miles an hour, which makes a hell of a, titanium or aluminum or stainless steel bullet, and it goes ripping through your Starlink satellite. Boom! And all of a sudden now you have something that's been hit by a tremendous bullet. So these risks to life and property are real, and they're not the only concerns about a busy space above us. And while launch providers, satellite operators, insurance companies, they do care about the problem of space debris for the effect on space operations, space sustainability, people that are all about this, are concerned about this now, argue that the environment of space has value itself. It is a highway. It's a real estate up there, and it should be not abused, and there's a much greater risk of harm than just the individuals on Earth. Now, the mainstream view is that degrading the environment on Earth through pollution or mismanagement is bad because of its negative impact on the environment or living beings. The same has to apply in space, but there's no clear direct victim or physical harm, and that doesn't matter. The indirect victims and the indirect harm can be catastrophic. In the Cosmos 954 settlement, the Canadians claimed that since the Soviet satellite deposited hazardous radioactive debris in the Canadian territory, this constituted damage to property within the meaning of the Liability Convention. But, as Article 2 of the Outer Space Treaty declares, that no state can own outer space or celestial bodies, it is not clear whether this interpretation would apply in the event of harm to objects in space. Space is shaping up to be the new frontier. It is, and we are going to explore it, and we're going to capitalize on it. Removing from orbit existing large objects, and we're not talking about the little drink box size satellites. We're talking about big ones like telescopes and weather satellites. These are way out there, like 12,500 miles. That could collide one with another will be a great place for governments to start. But if the United Nations or governments agreed on laws that define legal consequences for creating space debris in the first place, and of course the punitive damages if they're not followed, at least the best practices of it, this could help mitigate future pollution of the space environment. Now, such laws would not need to be invented from scratch. The 2007 United Nations Space Debris Mitigation Guidelines already address the issue of debris prevention. Myself and my colleagues, Michael Sala and Alfred Lambermont-Weber, we put together what was called the Peace in Space Initiative, and it was submitted to the General Assembly at the United Nations, but it was never read. It was never introduced as a piece of ruling body, and we wish that it was, because it addressed the weaponization of space directly. It was a little bit late, about 40 years too late, but it is better late than never, because every country's doing what it damn well pleases as far as weaponizing space. The chances, of course, of a person actually being killed by a falling satellite are pretty close to zero. They're just slightly above the chances of you dying from the made-for-TV virus. On the off chance that it does happen, current space law provides a pretty good framework for dealing with such an event. But just like during the 20th century on Earth, current laws are focusing on the individual and ignoring the bigger picture of the environment, albeit a cold, dark, and unfamiliar one. Adapting and enforcing space law so that it could prevent and deter actors from polluting space environment, from turning it into a giant pile up in space, and then holding them accountable if they break these laws, it could help avoid a trash-filled sky. It doesn't do much for those out there who are, space anarchists. Trash the whole thing, just tear it all up. That's what they're all about. Let's see here. We got about 11 minutes, and we're going to bring Celestine Starr on. She is let's see, I'm going to go down here to her description. Dr. Celestine Starr has been called a Renaissance woman for our evolutionary times, possessing profound knowledge, wisdom, and expertise in many fields of endeavor. Dr. Starr has been offering humanity her sacred healing wisdom, extra intuitive and perceptive abilities, worldly business knowledge, and joyous creative artistic gifts for over 40 years. I've met her in person. She's a tremendous personality. She continues today, dedicating her life through her current businesses, Temple of Light, Papillon Life Services and Affiliates, the Fellowship and Temple of Isis, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene Communities, and other conscious organizations. She shares her wisdom, offers guidance, knowledge, and direction for the way through, out of suffering, ignorance, and pain, very needed in these days. And by recognizing and experiencing her own ascension and consciousness and divine awakening, Dr. Starr now gives assistance to those who are going through the eye of the needle, as they say, or are on the path of ascension. She's going to be coming on at the bottom of the hour, so I don't want you to miss it. Stick around. And if you have questions, yes, I will open the call room, and so you can call in at the number on the screen, 213-233-3998. And let me go ahead and bring in the call board. I'm just going to go ahead and add that right now. Just give me a second to dial that up. I think that's the correct number. I should know it by now. I've been dialing it for 10 years, or 6 years. Okay, so the call board is now dialed in, and we will take calls at the bottom of the hour when Celestine Star comes on. Oh. Maybe. We'll see what happens. We'll probably get a recording that says the conference room is full and nobody else can join. Nope, there we go. We're hooked up. See all the wonderful things that we have to do here in the studio. We run everything ourselves. So happy to have these skills and be able to do it without panicking in front of everybody. Trucker Will's out there on YouTube. Good to see you out there, my friend. Travels all over the country, keeping you in stuff with his rig. And Zan Yoga's out there. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. Yes, you did talk to me many years ago on the radio. Very good. Stephen Andres is out there. Yes. All right. So, a path of thought. Let me just share this with you. Science is an amazing thing, and I love talking about it on this program. There's been a study using epilepsy patients undergoing surgery, and it's given neuroscientists an opportunity to track, really like never before, the detailed movement of a thought through the human brain. Now, not mine, of course. I'm not epileptic anyway, but you could never track it through my mind. I've stitched my mind together in so many different ways and to help me with my recall. You would never follow it. But the findings published in 2018 confirmed the role of what's known as the prefrontal cortex. That's this area right here, the thing that really gives you a headache sometimes, as the coordinator of complex interactions between different regions, thinking out perception with acting and action, and serving as what can be considered, let's just call it the glue of cognition, okay, the glue of awareness. There are many processes that take place in the brain. Speech is over here on the left-hand side of the brain, right about here. But an interesting thing is that music, songs, they're stored over here. They're stored on this side. So when you have a person that, say, has an aneurysm here, which can shut off the blood flow to the left side of the brain, you will lose operation of the right eye a little bit, the right hand, right leg, but you also lose speech. However, a person that has lost speech in a stroke of this kind, if the aneurysm is repaired in time, can still sing a song that contains words. That's because it's stored in a different part of the brain. So previous efforts to measure the passing of information from one area to the other have relied on processes such as encephalography, or what's known as the EEG, or functional magnetic resonance imaging. This is different than a regular MRI, which, while non-invasive, offer less than perfect resolution. It sort of takes standing waves and reads the reflections of them as you slice into the brain using sound waves. It's good for finding a mass in the brain, or for finding a void in the brain, or a dead spot, like someplace where there's been cranial bleeding or something like that. They're very good for that, but not so much for tracking activity in the brain. But the study was led by researchers from my old friends at University of California, Berkeley, recording electrical activity of neurons using a precise technique called electrocorticography. And this is where they put hundreds of tiny electrodes right up against the cortex. Hey, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Don't go away. Okay, I'm very quick going to send them to the break. And I'm going to bring Celestine on now, and that way we can get some of the connections we have to get done here. Let's See if I can find her. There she is. Okay. We're going to add her in, and then we're going to connect with the NDI. So just give me a moment. Are you there?
I'm here.
Very good, very good. Okay, let me get to my screen here, and I'm going to add an NDI module. This is something that we do to bring in the video of Skype.
Okay. What is it called? NDI?
Yeah, NDI software. It's is not easy to use, let me tell you.
Oh.
It is. I have mastered it.
Yeah, well, I was looking at one of your programs, and it looked really clear and wonderful.
Let's see here.
Okay.
I have to pick the right one. There's about 8 different sources that it will use.
I see. Yeah, well, let's see. May 23rd.
Ah, there we go. We got it.
Oh, I was just listening to Portal to Ascension. I was just on there. My last prayers to everyone.
Okay, we have it, and you are on the screen. So I will bring the studio back in, well, 1 minute. And
Can I see myself?
Yes, you'll be able to see yourself. Hang on a moment. Let me get my... got to stop the echo here.
Okay.
Okay, that should stop the echo. And let's see if we can transfer this to the screen, see if it'll go live. I don't know, I got a big Skype logo there right now. This sometimes is, like I said, it is not, it's more like rocket science than it is sound.
Yeah.
But it should work. And you should, I can get to my settings. I am not exactly sure why you can't see me, because I tested this before we went on.
Right.
See.
See.
Give me a second here.
It's turned on my video.
Because
Yeah.
I have
So
2 cameras, so you get 1 camera, and
here I am. Okay, I see. Let's see, I click
that's a
inside.
Logitech, so you
It's a
should.
background.
Okay, you should be able to see me now.
Mhm.
Okay, good. Now let's see.
Yes, so
I'm still getting a
it's-
blue Skype screen. Hopefully that'll correct itself in a second. Let's go ahead and bring the studio back in. And
Okay.
one moment. Gotta get to
So
my
you do that.
go.
Can you see my background, or do I have to put it in?
No, I can see your background on Skype, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm not seeing it on the NDI. Hang on a second. Let me just address that 1 second. Just take a second here. Let's see. Let's try that one. Yes, there we go. Okay, that's much clearer. Okay, good. We should have you, and we have no problem with your background if all that's working good, and then we have no echo. I hope. We'll check the chat screen real quick and make sure everybody can see Celestine Star, right? And no echo, so everything is working well. How are you?
Good. I'm good. You know, I'm doing really well. And let's see. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here. I just came in off of the Portal to Ascension, so everybody's just winding down over there. Quite a day. But I'm feeling really good. The world is opening up, as they say, and allowing us to speak into it, and people are listening. They want to hear what the cultural creatives have to say about what's going on.
You know, the last year we've undergone this on a multi-dimensional level, kind of a closing down of the human consciousness. 2020 was such a weird year. Remember, we kind of did that. What was it? A black market conference at Shasta last August, and nobody was really supposed to do it, but we snuck in and did it anyway. It was awesome. Rob did a fantastic job putting that thing together. But we all sensed this sort of grand division in our society. We could see people that are prone to going to sleep, to hunkering down, to becoming a victim. And we could see the others that rose above it and floated, and you could tell we're of a higher vibration. But how do you reach out to those people and fix that soul wound that was kind of thrust at us last year?
You know, I've come to a place where I've recognized there's basically two timelines that are happening. It was almost as if the world split in two. And we saw it in our politics, we saw it, just shutting everything down. There was a lot of undercurrent of, closing down the sex trafficking, and there were so many things that were hidden at the time that called for the shutdown of everyone, get in your homes. And my girlfriend was in Italy when they had all the military appear, that 7 levels of military to help shut down the child trafficking. So that was just an underlay of all that. But I felt that there was definitely those who believed in what they were being told, the fear factor, the programming. And in a sense, I saw one timeline, everyone was going off the cliff, and the other timeline, we were all rising and just staying purposeful in our work and holding the field for those that were in dire, I guess, in their spin on more immortality, their fear of death. So how do I reach out to them? I just gave some talks. I put them out into the social media. People would stop me and they would ask me. I often, only if I was asked would I really begin to talk. I realized there was too much misinformation and disinformation. People gravitated to the Western doctor, the Western, societies, and so I couldn't save them. I got down to the point where it was like, you can't save them. So you have to let them go through the process, and I know that each person will awaken as they need. So there was no fear.
Well, let me ask you about these two timelines, because in our mind we think about this, that maybe they're parallel, they're going along, and one's in darkness, one's in light. But are they skewed to one another? I mean, are we moving forward with our life purpose, and everyone else is kind of stuck where they are in some limbo, and we have to reach out to them and bring them back into reality?
Well, what I'd like to say is that there are 7 billion Earths. There's not just one Earth.
Oh, wow.
Each one of us is creating our own world. And so we were given an opportunity to make a choice. Did you want to fall in line? Did you want to go under control? Did you want to be in the mass media of fear and denial and oppression? Or did you want to stand in inalienable sovereignty? And so, so I think there's a midway point, there's a meshing where people are kind of going back and forth, but then there are those that are absolutely asleep at the wheel, but that's the way they were before. And again, I just see that planting seeds is the time, because maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, they'll pop open and they'll say, oh my gosh, they were right all along. I mean, I don't know how many, I'm on lists and talking to people, don't get the jab. And, then I stopped. I said, it's so personal. Each person has to take that journey themselves. It's about mortality and immortality. We're here for eternity.
Sure.
So that's all right with me, And if they wake up and they realize I got the jab and maybe I didn't really need it, maybe it's going to make me do things I don't want to do. We don't know what's in store, but I see the world, each person creating their own world. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get it that every individual has their own earth, and that together we kind of live on the average of all those interpretations of our environment. Like green for me is not maybe green for you, but together we agree it's grass.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that, we're all eternal beings having a mortal experience. I laugh because I was going down the highway one day and there was this billboard up there that said, it was obviously an advertisement for a church, and it said, "Are you ready for eternity?" And I thought for a second, I said, wait a minute, aren't we like in it already? Like part of the way through it?
That's a good one.
Everybody has a different concept of it. But like you said, a lot of these people were asleep before. They were going to work and they were spending their money and they were paying their rent, but they were asleep. They weren't awake. They're punctuating their lives different than we punctuate our lives. They were punctuating their lives with paydays or summer vacations, or maybe even not even having a life until retirement. But we, you and me, we're on all the time. We don't punctuate our lives. We're doing our purpose. So we don't ever take a break because we're doing what we love doing. But
that's right.
We didn't really know who they were until everybody started putting masks on. Then you could see them.
Mm-hmm. And it's the strangest thing. I walk into people that have the mask on, and it almost jolts me because their energy is so different than mine. And
describe that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
I have a friend that when I see her, I know she's illuminated. She's awakened in certain ways, but in others not so. And she would come to the door and she'd have her mask on or a scarf or something, and it would literally, as she walked into the door towards me, I'm backing away. Like my body is literally stepping away as if I'm looking at somebody from another planet. So I can actually feel the differentiation of the fields. And I'm in a place where they have the sign, wear the mask in the building. And you will not find me wearing my mask because it's like, we have to breathe oxygen. And I refuse to breathe the carbon monoxide. They've done studies, 1%. It's really a sham. But you can feel the difference in the people, and they look at you and some will guilt you. And, there's this whole social unfoldment that's going on. But yeah, very different. It split the masses from those that were awake to those that were in that place of comfort, in their comfort zone. And you and I, Brooks, we step way out on the edge, and what they say is, if you're not on the edge, you're taking up too much space. But I feel compassion for them. I've been watching this movement for over 40 years. It didn't just pop up, this pandemic and all the things that are going on. This is the end game. We've been watching it unfold, and now we're in it. And so far, I have been basically thriving. I just hold I tell people, stay in your own lane. And that's a great one, because I said, if somebody's in Washington doing something and you're here, you can see that they're not really affecting your life. Maybe there's some financial connections, taxes, this and that, but really you are creating your own world. So stay in your lane. If you're watching the news and you're getting all this information, make sure to balance it with something that's joyous. Give balance so your brain is not just one-sided and beginning to go into fear. So that's what I would tell people. It's an interesting thing. Yeah.
I try not to have conflict I'm just a person that likes to avoid it. But it doesn't mean I'm going to go down to the Piggly Wiggly or the Red Owl or the Harris Teeter and put my mask on and go into the frozen food section because I want to avoid conflict. No, I go to Lowe's and Publix or wherever, and I don't wear my mask. But I do notice when my cart's coming down the aisle and someone's coming the other way and them and their kids are wearing masks, they won't look at me. They won't look at me. It's like I'm looking at them. I'm smiling. By the way, 15th of May was National Smile Appreciation Day. So I went to the Great Clips to get my hair trimmed, and I walked in without a mask. And everyone is wearing masks. Of course, all the hair cutters are wearing masks, but everybody in the chairs are wearing masks. So I sit down, and I'm smiling in the mirror, and I'm talking to the salon worker, and I get my hair cut, and we're smiling, and I pay, and I leave. Not only did no one say a word to me about not wearing the mask, which, by the way, our governor had lifted the mandate, so you didn't have to wear it anywhere, but they didn't look at me. Nobody in the place looked at me. And I thought to myself, it's like that scripture that says, the light shall shine in the darkness, and the darkness shall comprehend it not.
You said it. It's right there. And what is that? That was my timer, so I would not see you said it. It was right on time there. That was so good. That was well done, you see. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
they look at you and they have a blank stare, like they're looking away.
Yeah.
2 ladies were standing outside in an elder complex, and they said, well, they told us we didn't have to wear masks. I said, yeah, look, you could see my smile. I'd love to see your smiles. Oh, no, we don't know if it's really safe. We're going to wear our masks for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's what they told me. And so I have to give respect and preciousness to what they need in their lives, and just keep floating the boat along, because we have some great things that are happening right along with the bad,
Yeah, I totally agree. And you and I are going to be at the event in Shasta it's in August again. And all the details are at my website and at Celestine Stars. I believe it's CelestineStar.com, right?
CelestineStar.com, but we have our more galactic information at the GalacticEarthCouncil.com. That's where you can tune into the workshops and sign up for newsletters, and we really get into the nitty-gritty with transmissions from the galactics and everything.
Excellent. I highly recommend, if you're within 300 miles of Mount Shasta, make the drive. Come up to the conference. I promise you're going to get something very cool out of it. You can meet Celestine. You can meet me. You can meet Rob Potter and Brad Olson and others. I think Laura Eisenhower is going to be there this year if nothing goes wrong.
We're cooking up something. Laura and I are cooking it up. We might do a little round table, so don't be surprised if you get called in. So Rob is
love
really
those things. Love those things.
Rob is planning it well, and I love that the booths there's going to be booths outside the conference table, so the conference itself, so that you'll have plenty of time to schmooze and look at different items,
and
buy
this
our
year
books.
we don't have to worry about smoke like we did last summer.
Yes, smoke and people chattering, but how beautiful to have Shasta there above you. The crystal skull, I don't know whose crystal skull will be there, but we're going to have the crystal skull, and I think some beautiful crystal bowls. He always has surprises.
Yes, I have surprises here in the studio too. I have 2 very selfless and feckless cats, and they often open the studio door. They know how to open it now, but they never close it behind them. So
how is that?
There are noises elsewhere in the house. I think they're watching Netflix right now on the other end of the house, so that sound may come through on the microphone. I'm not to be held responsible for that.
It's
right.
The cat's fault. Welcome, cats. The cat people, they teach us how to live, so I'm totally down for that. I raised bobcats. Can you believe it? I had bobcats up in Middletown on my little 5-acre walnut farm.
I love them. They're so big, and yet they're so graceful.
They are amazing. We had Tutankhamun, Guacamole. He was crazy. He went everywhere. And, we had some beautiful bobcats, and then the wild ones. And they mingled with each other with no stress. But the fun thing with the bobcats is if they didn't like you, and they hang really high up in trees and in hidden corners. And if they didn't, they would just dash out, push you, and keep going,
That's funny.
They would just yeah. And people would just go falling back, going, "What's going on?" And
I met a guy who had a rescue bobcat, and this was a bobcat that evidently it's a certain breed that they're very large. They're like the size of a dog, and they're bred for their fur. But he rescued it from that facility, and he had it in the house. And he had very tall ceilings. But what this cat would do is it would jump from the floor up on top of the edge of the open door, and the door wouldn't even swing. It was so graceful. It could hop up there with its 4 feet on the edge of that 1.5-inch wide door, and the door wouldn't even move.
They could make it from the floor to the top of the refrigerator, and you never knew when they were going to pop out somewhere. One was called Mount Maru. We called him Maru, and you could lock him in a room. No way out, and he would find a way out.
Wow.
And he learned how to turn the lights on and off, so people would walk by and go, "What's going on?" He'd go and flick it up, and the light would go on, flick it down and go off. and he was fascinated with that. And
well, these cats have figured out how to hang on the doorknob and rock until it opens. It takes them a few tries, but they do get it open.
They are brilliant. They're beyond our comprehension.
I'm just happy they don't bark.
That's right. There you go. Yeah. We're buddies.
That's right. That's right. I have lots of friends that have dogs. I have nothing against dogs, but barking harshes my calm. So I like purring. Purring is good.
I have to be very patient with that, So yeah. So I'm just excited that we're both going to be up there again.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It really was a step of courage for all of us to, pay the money, fly out there, get a hotel, get up to the mountain. And there was no promise that anyone was going to show up. We thought, gosh, the whole world's afraid. True. Maybe they won't come. But they did.
I didn't think of that.
They did. They came, and it was wonderful. And of course, Rob was very careful in his planning. He wouldn't let anybody park in the parking lot, didn't let anybody group outside the door because he didn't want any neighbors picking up the phone. Hey, I think they're having a conference up there. We just went in 2 by 2, just very quietly, and we had a great 3-day conference. It was awesome.
It was awesome, and he wanted us to wear the masks outside, so he gave us these handkerchiefs. He did a great job. So this time, I think he's really trying to be up and up, so we don't have to stress. It'll be in the park, so it'll be outside.
Oh, up where that soccer field was.
He'll have. I think he has a hall that'll fill 100 people, is what he's talking about. So that's the Mount Shasta Summer Conference, and it's very interesting. Don't let it fool you. Speakers from all over the world coming in to speak about UFO and lots of scientific awareness. It's going to be great. I'm going to speak on the vibrational frequencies of the Earth, the changes that are going on, and how it's affecting humanity, and what we can look for in the future.
I have quite a few friends that monitor the Schumann resonance, and they say that it's just been going up and down to like 100 hertz and back down to 5. And of course, the Schumann resonance is powered by lightning on the Earth, but the Earth is also energetically connected with the sun, and the sun has been very quiet in solar cycle 24.
The 25-year of weakness, but we're also getting the gamma. I think that helps the Earth to ring, and we lost our third dimension, so that's why the floundering and what's going on, and people are trying to figure out what is going on in life, but there is no more stabilization of the 7.83, which was the measure of the third dimension, we're now, moving into higher frequencies. And I love it because we're actually interfaced with our higher intelligence relatives, our star relatives. And some of the visioning them, seeing them, and be able to communicate so clearly with them is because our field has risen in its frequency.
Yeah, I found that communications are quick and they're very high level. You look at and I'm kind of on the leading edge of this industry. You look at the inventions and the technology that's coming forward now, just not just in medicine, but also industry and space research, and even in things like materials research, 3D printing, and the technology is coming so fast now. And I think it's not like it was before. Before, when a new discovery was made, it would go all industrial, and then these big players would come in and try to control it. We have the masters of the universe that try to control the internet and everything we do and say on there. But this is different. This feels different, don't you think?
This is the real deal. We are moving beyond the end game. So those that you were speaking about, the big dollar bucks, they're coming in and taking over. We are stepping into galactichood. And so we're just moving beyond. So this technology is just being funneled through the human imagination and abilities and capabilities. And some are already working with the humans on Earth. When I was in Middletown and the guys are up there, the Ashtar Command would come down and assist humanity in forming this beautiful funnel that goes down and down to the level of the manna, and they have to pour this water to keep it from coming up and exploding. So yeah, they're a part of the show. And so I think they're helping to bring technology, and I'm so excited. I think we're going to have our anti-gravity cars, by the time next 10 years comes. I know mine is parked somewhere.
Those pileups are going to be interesting.
But I like what you're saying. That's what makes me excited, the innovations. I've been to the inner cities. I've been across the water, as they say. I've been across the river. And no matter what they may tell you, those who say that we're going to be under invasion are really holding humanity back. And there is karma with that. And so I've been putting it on in my talks. I've been saying, let me put this on the table to give us space. It's like, get off our neck and let us breathe this new identity of galactichood, because what is there is the awakening of our human race, and that we are the sacred tone of Earth. We are the signature form, and they see us as one unit. So as the veil drops and you go into these beings and they show us the way, they show us how to technically get our electromagnetic field back into balance. They have the ability to do that. They have the technology. We need it.
Yeah.
We need to stop blocking them and saying we're going to be, this is childish. This is little minds of little men. We want to go bigger. We want to see, because I tell you, the city of light, to be able to travel, to go off the planet and to go into another dimension that has everything that we are talking about: love, consciousness, compassion. Extraordinary. I think you would love it. I think, Brooks, you would love it with the technology. Just
we're gonna let TF Truth Frequency Radio Network take a short break here in about 5 seconds. As soon as their break music begins, we are streaming live through YouTube, Twitter, DLive, Facebook, Twitch, and Foxhole. We have our audience in Foxhole. This is Celestine Starr as my guest. As soon as TFR goes to break, which I think is about 10 seconds. Here we go. There's the break music. So they take a 3-minute news break because they're audio, and they go out through AM radio, through TalkStream Live, and all around the world. And these other medium are all video mediums. So you and your beautiful picture are going out to the world right now, and we're having this deep conversation. And in the chat room, questions are coming in. One says, what is your mind while viewing an eclipse? We have a lunar coming up this weekend in California. This is the, what is the name of this lunar eclipse? It's some really crazy name.
On that one. Yeah, let me get on that one while we're doing, let's see, lunar eclipse. And I can't see myself. All I see is you. So
yeah, I don't know why Skype isn't sending you my picture.
Screenshot of me. Just take a screenshot. And because I like to take screenshots. Let's see. This is May 2000. Okay, this one is, it's a total lunar eclipse. 14 minutes, 30 seconds. I want to see what the it's on the 26th. And what is the astrology?
It has a name. I don't have it up because I don't have a browser up right now. I'm just
King.
I have 3 screens, and everything that I can run is on these 3 screens right here, and I don't want to mess with it.
Don't mess with it. Don't. Sagittarius full moon on Wednesday. Immortality. See, there it is. It just keeps coming up. It's
I don't think it may be a blood moon, but it's got a special name.
It's a blood moon. It's a blood moon.
Okay.
Spiritual meaning of the full moon, it relates to morals and ethics. The test of faith due to greed, excess, and immortality. Mercury and Venus square Neptune. Ooh. Yeah. Okay.
I know Dr. Turi, and he's really into this astrology, and he's really a fantastic astrologer, makes some amazing predictions. He and I have a little different viewpoint. He thinks that your star sign, your astrological sign, is the day that you actually, spit the amniotic fluid out of your nose and cut the umbilical cord. But I think that your real star sign is when you are conceived, because all the matter that's being used to knit your body together from 2 cells to a full-term baby is being put together under a star pattern that influences the way you're put together.
I like that.
So if you could tell when you're conceived, I think that's more in line with what your star sign really is, because your birth, unless you're just exactly full term, is kind of arbitrary. You could be born early. I was supposed to be a Leo, but I'm not a Leo. I'm a Gemini.
That's beautiful. I love it. I have Gemini at the top of my chart, and it's definitely I like that. I'm a Capricorn with the Leo moon.
We're bringing TFR back in now.
Okay.
All right, very good. Celestine Starr is my guest. For those of you on the Truth Frequency Radio Network, this is where the Truth Freaks hang out, and we are not afraid to let our Truth Freak flag fly. Remember, following me on social media will treat, cure, and prevent the disease of ignorance. So make sure to hit that like button on whatever service you're watching, because we're streaming on YouTube, Twitter, DLive, Facebook, Twitch, and Foxhole. So make sure to let us know, or let them know, that you like tonight's programming. We are going to be featured in a summertime conference at Mount Shasta, Celestine and I, and other great speakers like Laura Eisenhower and Brad Olson, the great intrepid explorer. Been on every continent on the planet, including Antarctica, and it's a fantastic presentation. And you need this. You need to get out and do these things, because at the end of the day, I was talking about this with my kids the other day. They don't remember the Little League games or the football games or basketball. They don't remember any of that crap. You know what they remember? They remember the family vacations. They remember the events we went to, rocket launches or water parks or the beach. They remember the vacations. That's what they remember. It's the best investment you can make in yourself and in your family. So you should come out to Shasta if you're within a 5-hour drive. Load them up, bring them on. There's something there for everyone. It's not adults only kind of thing. I promise you. Kids get into this stuff too. There's such interesting stuff to see and to learn and to open your mind and open your heart, and you bond together as a community. You don't realize you are not alone on this planet. There are other people like you, just as awake as you, just as fearless and just as conscious as you are. And you just don't only get to meet them when you come to these conferences. So make the effort. Come out and see us. Go to CelestineStar.com, or what was the other website you had?
GalacticEarthCouncil.com.
GalacticEarthCouncil.com, or you can go to AmericaFreeRadio.com. Sign up. I think discount tickets are still available as of this weekend, but I think next weekend that discount goes away. So, because these things fill up in a hurry, and if you want to get that discount, and there are various levels of discount, you can volunteer, you can get a sponsorship. There are things that you can do to get there. We just want to see you there. Okay? So
yeah.
I want to talk about, where the rubber meets the road sometimes with people. They really face a lot of stress because the pressure that's being put upon them right now by our government, offering them money to stay home and stay out of the workforce. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I mean, I work for the Fortune 500 right now. I'm consulting with a Fortune 100 company, but we all face the same thing. We're facing 15% absenteeism because people don't want to come to work. I mean, they're making pretty close to $50,000 a year to stay home. And it's hard to compete with that. But it hurts you to do this. And what I want you to address right now is, how do you help people make that decision to not sacrifice their integrity by taking the free handout, and keep your integrity and go do what you were meant to do?
Yes. So really it is the weighing of the heart. And so in sitting back and allowing the handout, when the waters are cut off and the finances do not flow, because it's inevitable that it's going to happen, they're now not just letting you check off the boxes, they're asking for the proof that you're going out and actually looking for a job. So inevitably, the flow of finances through that little stimulus packet is going to cut off. So what are you going to do? I would say the inspiration to stand in your sovereignty is key, to feel the freedom of being able to take care of yourself. For myself,
Absolutely.
We closed our clinic and I had to come home, but I found myself just doing the clinic on Zoom. A lot of people have found that they can transfer their business onto Zoom. This is your chance for those of you who have dreamed to have your own business, because there's a lot of grant money and stimulus help. There's a lot of help for people who they're trying to get the middle class back up again, because the middle class was so downtrodden. People closed their businesses. And I want to speak to cities like Seattle that are boarded up, literally boarded up, and they haven't gotten their city back since the insurrection, of which they held the Capitol in Seattle for over a week, I think a month. And I was just there, and it was pretty frightening because everything looks great in the daytime, but at night, what you have is those that are homeless, the derelicts, the grifters, it's a pretty scary place. We have people stand in front of our car and say, "You have money and we don't have money." I mean, it was the edge of Armageddon. And so, if you're staying home, let us just formulate that it's not going to be forever. So if you have that opportunity, please inspire yourself to begin to practice. Begin something that will take you beyond just being at home and not doing anything but collecting the check.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to think beyond that.
Because you're allowing the economy to crash. Every time they hand out a stimulus check, somebody has to pay for that. It's not just, they're just making up money. And then in the end, we pay out in taxes, and it's the population that has to pay for that.
That's right.
So I have to speak from the place of a person who enjoyed business from when I was very, very young, and building something special. One of the things I could say is in the next 2,500 years is ours. And we had some of the beautiful illuminated consciousness say to us, "We're passing you the baton." Okay? Mary Magdalene says, "We're passing you the baton. This 2,500 years is yours. What are you going to do to inspire humanity to be good citizens, to work together, to love each other, to raise each other up, to bring your neighbors, to keep your whole neighborhood, to connect to the whole of the earth? What are you going to leave humanity that will be there for 2,500 years?" Think of these, let them inspire you, these people who have, they've built these great cathedrals, they've built places where people can go and be empowered, the sacred medicine wheels that were laid down, things, the great books that were written. Even if you're locked in and you're writing a book, you're still moving towards an offering to humanity. So if nothing else, make the offering, make some kind of offering to humanity, and thinking in your mind, let this last for 2,500 years. Clay pots will last for 5,000 years, even longer. There's, they find a little pot, a little shard of pottery, and they go, "Oh my goodness, that's 1726," or what if that was yours?
Yeah.
If all else fails, go back to art. Art will never fail you. You can start with something that you offer humanity and build from there. It's so exciting. When you do something for yourself, let me tell you, you could look at that with pride.
That's one of the reasons I write books.
I just took a photograph of the Northern California Bay, and it had angel clouds, and I just was like, wow, this is a really good piece. So I framed it, and it's extraordinary. And so I said, if I got a few pieces, I could start something, and I could offer this to humanity. So start with, here's what I could tell you. 3 circles. The first circle is, what are you passionate about, right? And what could you do every day and you would never get tired, And the second one is, how would you like to serve humanity? What is your offering? And then you put the two together, right? So, I love to share my wisdom right now. This is my passion. So I'm in counseling, I'm doing counseling. The third circle is, how long do I want to do that? So you have 3 circles: passion, offering and service, and how long do you want to do it? Very simple. And just, if all else fails, go back to art, and it will never fail you.
I totally agree. I mean, I know people that paint, that sculpt. I write books, and that's a legacy that stays. Your copyright that's out there, the book that you wrote, the story that you told, the part of your soul that you put onto paper and put out there, it lives on. We read lots of dead authors, and it continues to inspire, continues to change the world. Sometimes the world conforms to those things. I just recently moved my copy of 1984 from the fiction area of my bookshelf to the nonfiction area of my bookshelf because it happened. And it happened pretty much the way George Orwell said it was going to happen.
That's right. And you've read my book, our book that we wrote, the Galactic Earth Council. Yeah, you'll get a copy. I'll bring one for you.
Okay, deal. I find in my own webinars that I do that a lot of people, especially let's call them middle-aged people, my avatars between 40 and 55 years old, they've already done everything they have to do. You know, they've paid off most of their house. They've raised their kids. They had their job with the city or with the school or with the factory, and now they want to do what they want to do, but they forgot how. They forgot how to dream. They forgot how to get back to that first circle you talked about, which was, what are you passionate about? I ask people all the time, Celestine, what is your dream? And be surprised, a lot of people don't know. They don't remember. So how do you help them get into that first circle?
You know, I take them back to a time. I generally ask them, what were they doing? What were they imagining for their life at 7? Because that's really when, you know, if you're a kid, you're thinking, you know, I want to do this, you know, and there's something in you that it's like an awakening right around the age of 7 to 8 or 9. And you have a determination about what it is that you find out. Are you good at reading or math, or, you know what you're good at by that time. And
I wanted to be an asteroid miner. It didn't work out.
I was heading out to the Bahamas. Somehow I knew I was leaving the family and I was going to get on a cruise ship and head down there. And I was going to do hair to get down there, use my cosmetology license. And then in my science, I was going to be a scientist and go do marine biology in the Bahamas. And,
wow.
you know, I still have to make that trip, but, you know.
Well, I lost about 5 years ago when I beat cancer. I lost the ability to be in the sun. So now I have to look at Earth a little bit differently. If I go out in the sun, I've got to be covered, hat, long sleeve shirt, you know, sometimes gloves if I'm golfing. I have to look at Earth a little differently because the sun is, you know, kind of toxic to me now. But so I can't go out and snorkel in the middle of the day. I'd have to snorkel at night.
Yeah, and you could do that. You could do moon snorkeling, you know. They have lights in the water, which is pretty amazing. But
attracts the big
so
fish
I know
that
finding
like to
your
eat
passion
people.
is your inner child. Your inner child will guide you, even now, in this moment. What is it like to do, you know? And I tell people, is take a walk across your city or wherever you live. Take a walk and just look at the things that light you up. Do you like the gardens? Do you try? Sometimes you have to experiment. Sometimes putting your hand in clay. Really, the passions are in the heart, and you just have to tap into that. You put me on the hot seat with this, but I know it's the inner child that loves to play. So it is about playing. Try beading, I love all of the businesses that are coming out, the mothers who are finding themselves making little enterprises. I found myself crocheting and I made all these, fold up hats, these little knit hats, and I was selling them like crazy. I had a little cottage industry going while I was raising my daughter. And, then I did crochet beautiful, elegant bodices, start with one thing and just see how it goes. It usually blossoms out, but
the easy way to do this, if you're listening to us tonight, or you're listening to this as an archive tomorrow while you're working on your favorite project,
yes,
there's an app out there called Meetup, and if you go to Meetup, you can find all this stuff, people that throw clay, people that crochet, people that do acrylic painting. You can find all this stuff and people just like you who want to get together on an amateur basis and just do it. Just go, and you'll see your world will open up. You'll find that thing that resonates with you and will fulfill you.
Drumming. We had a friend who was a high mountain hiker like me. I love to hike in the deep woods. That was me every week or whenever I could. But we studied the plants. After a while, the trees, the plants, and to start taking tours, taking people on walks. They come and they join you, and maybe you have 4 or 5, and the next thing you know, you've got a routine of taking people on hikes into the deep mountain. We need this.
Yeah. I know a lady that does it in Sedona, and she's knocking down some serious money now because she's actually licensed to take people to these vortex areas in Sedona. But she's doing really well.
Mm-hmm. I think she's in 1,300 and something, right? She's taken a number of people out there. Skywatch.
That's crazy.
It is. It's wild. But so what we're doing is we're looking at the economy collapsing. The capitalist world is dying. It's not working. It hasn't supported us. We have been supporting it. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, well, it's doing battle right now with the Marxists, and I'm hoping that the Marxists don't win. I know that there's a small group of elite out there that have been draining our economy for their own wealth to make themselves ultra wealthy, and that's killing us.
It's you have to think of each of these little jab tickets, cha-ching, and 200 million, that's just in America. And then they're saying, you have to have 2. Let's be greedy. You might have to do this every 6 months. And I'm not saying this out of disrespect. I'm saying this out of really, really, really the understanding that even before they put out the jibby jabs, that they had the pre-hospital treatments.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I could say it with this conviction, is that I know that they knew what to do and what it exactly is, because not everybody knows exactly what it is. And so there's a lot of details that can trail off over here, but they just built themselves an empire, and we're thinking they've got all this money that we citizens have paid for, and we're clamoring for, and then they had so much surplus, right? They got to give it to other countries, but these jibby jabbies, and what are they going to do with the money? Do you think that they are going to give your neighborhood the money to rebuild, to build the infrastructure of your streets and roads and schools? And, children are not even being able to go back in. I don't want to dwell on the negative. I love to see the positive in all of this. And so what I see is that we can begin small groupings of bartering. When we lived in Europe, it was like, people could say, well, I'll give you 6 pints of milk if you'll come fix the electrical system. We've forgotten how to barter. So many people have done here. And we had the flea markets, in America. Those were some of the greatest. That to me was the true America, to go to the flea markets and barter with those people who brought their Chester drawers. And my daughter would sell all of her clothes and go off and buy more toys, and things happening. But
when I was a kid, we called them swap meets.
Swap meets, yeah. So bring them back online. We need these things because we get to come together, and people, I'll never forget, you could set the price for whatever it was that you wanted to sell, and people would barter, but they would do it in a respectful way. And sometimes, they'd say, well, I have this and this. It wasn't about money. It was about, would you exchange this for this? And it was the true America.
It was also, there was no IRS inside these places, so you didn't have the IRS taking a piece of every single transaction.
That's right.
You sold your clothes and then you bought kitchen utensils with the money, but there was no tax man taking money out of the transaction both ways.
That's right. And I sold tools and different bowls and whatever came up for me, but I enjoyed it and everybody enjoyed it, and we do miss it. And so just understand that as the economy collapses, which we know, it's going to shift. There's a lot moving into digital currency. Be aware of that. There's a lot of people doing smart contracts, seems to be the way, because you could double, triple, double your money, and even though there's a fluctuation of whatever the digital currency is that you're working with, there is some payoff in that. And also, if the banks decide to do their little downturn again, you have a standing in the digital market. So that's already occurring. I see there's a lot of people going in that direction. And so just know that get your small grouping of people, choose 8 people that that you're going to move forward and survive with. No matter what's going on, you're going to hang together and love each other and keep each other going. Maybe somebody has the big house that everybody can fit into.
Automatic Sky on YouTube says swap meets and farmers markets are our past and our future.
Who says that?
Automatic Sky, whoever that is, it's their handle on YouTube.
Fantastic. Yes, I'll meet you there, in the field of light. Yes. Yeah, so be prepared. Get into small grouping. We have a small grouping that's playing around in digital currency. We have a small grouping we know is, somebody is, this is what Italy taught me. I lived in Italy for a while. They really take care of their own, let me tell you. So somebody's taking care of water. Somebody's taking care of the food, the bread, making sure the farmers market, whatever, gathering the foods for the tribes, Somebody's doing finance. If you have 8 people, you can generally configure yourself like a little village and just work accordingly. It's a very strong network.
I will tell you, it works. Where I went to college, one of the colleges I went to was Western Kentucky University. And when you go down College Street, there are a lot of older homes. These are built like 1910, 1920. They're older homes, but they're big. And they make great, let's just call them off-campus living.
I love those brick homes, yes.
And what happened was a little co-op of Vietnamese families got together, pooled their money, and they bought one of those houses. And they moved into it. I think there were 8 families. And then they kept pooling their money, and they bought the house next door. And then they split the families up 4 and 4. And they kept pooling their money, and they bought the next one, and the next one, and the next. And pretty soon they owned the entire block. All paid for in cash, washing dishes, mowing grass, doing hair, nails, all that stuff. They pooled their money as a co-op, and they bought real estate as a group, and it was successful.
Yay, that's brilliant. Yeah, we worked, my project, I took 10% of what I was accruing in my Temple of Light, and we had a money altar, and then everybody else, all my clients would come and they'd put their money. And in the end, we had 25 people out of poverty.
Yeah, wow, that's great.
And I had the pleasure of driving down the driveway with a little envelope with $1,000, if a mother was pregnant, she couldn't really work. Here's your money, here's your rent for the week. Also, I gave workshops. I gave once a month. I did a workshop because I had enough wealth that I didn't really have to work at that time. And so I did a workshop, but I made sure I hired the 8 that I had chosen to be around me, to be with me, who needed to be elevated. And I made sure they made enough money to pay their rent and such. And we did that for about 15 years, And as one became strong, they would put their money in and help the next person. And it was really, to this day, they're still doing amazing. And, they got their massage license or their painting credentials or whatever.
That is truly affecting the universe. Let me get TFR go to break now. Celestine, it is totally been my pleasure to have you on the program tonight. Once again, your website that you like everybody to go to. And remember, if you sign up for this conference in August from her website, because she'll have a link to it on her website, you get a discount. So don't forget about that. Now, what's the website again?
It's galacticearthcouncil.com.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have a great time this summer.
Yeah, we are. I can't wait. I've already got my little hotel booked.
Yeah, I'm procrastinating. I can't decide whether I'm going to room with somebody else, or I'm in a position maybe I can get a place with 2 rooms and help someone else, because I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to come and not camp out in the vacant lot next to the park.
Oh my goodness! Well, we have. I have to bring my little crew. We're going to sell books, of course.
Sure.
I think you saw the booth the last time. I'm going to have some posters and things, channelings, pictures of the UFOs and things like that. So it should be a lot of fun, but I'm excited. Yeah, we're doing Cold Creek Inn.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for sharing. It's been my heart's desire. It's good. This is really good what you're doing, and I love that you're holding light for everyone, and you're bringing it to a place where those who really need to hear guidance, down the path. Mm-hmm. You're there.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, you sound great. You look great. I can't wait to see you this summer.
With a big hug.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
All right. That was Celestine Starr. So happy to have her on the program. She's really doing a fine job out there. Lots of hard work. And if you're listening to this as an archive, go ahead and I'm going to put the link in my link down here in my description on YouTube, and you can get to it. If not, you can go to my website, which is americafreeradio.com or brooksagnew.com, and you can get to the events this summer, and you can sign up, and we'll see you there. And it's a great pleasure to put these things on. We really, really enjoy it, and it makes us feel good to come out and see you face to face. It's okay, to do the webinars. We overcome, we adapt, we overcome, we do what we have to do to make sure that we get our word out and that we can interact with you. Because there are important things to be said, and there are important things to hear right now, so you know what to do. You know you can take care of yourself. You know you're getting the truth. But it's so much better face to face. So if you can make it, come on out. We'll bring TFR back in, and then we'll continue with our program.
Since my first breath in, never would have thought I'd be afraid to begin, but here I am, the edge of the water, wondering if I can swim. Never seem to notice all the days pass through, but in this final moment, I'm still chasing the truth. I wanted explanation why I can't stay here forever in my youth. And if I press on, will you wait? Will you wait for me forever, or would it be wrong to ask you to come with? Tell me, will you wait?
Yes, we will. We'll wait for you. We are streaming live on the Truth Frequency Radio Network, where the Truth Freaks hang out. We are not afraid to let our Truth Freak flag fly. We are also streaming live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, DLive, and Foxhole. And we are so glad to have our Foxhole people a comfortable place. We're streaming live from the America Free Radio Studios somewhere east of the Appalachian Mountains. And I'm sort of monitoring. Let's see if I can do this. Yes, I can. Look at there. There's the Foxhole chat. So this is good. This is good. I really appreciate you guys. I know the audience is growing. We're competing with a lot of people. Patriot News, Three Beer Men, 1 Foot in 5D. This is Alara of Sirius's program. She does a fantastic job. They're doing, I believe, Space Force News tonight. And Truth and Art TV, Salty Crackers out there, NPC show that's non-player character, by the way. And PSB, and they're all live right now on Foxhole, so there's lots to compete with one another, but that's okay. We're growing the community, we're supporting one another, and it's just good to see everyone out there doing great. What is that? Hello, Fran. Thanks very much. All right, excellent. This is good. Good to see you guys. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Georgia domino. You know what's going on in Arizona, right? It's kind of hard not to. With we're hanging on with our fingernails on the edge of the table, watching cyber ninjas do a fantastic job trying to save the country from an act of, it's, I think, a criminal act for which there should be a Department of Justice action, but there is not. But justice is coming nonetheless because the audit is happening. And I think the audit's happening on 3 different levels. One is the actual paper of the ballot. What they're trying to do is delineate between genuine mail-in ballots and counterfeit mail-in ballots. And the report is that Arizona knew this was coming, as did we all, because of what we saw happen in 2016 and in 2018. And Arizona prepared for it by putting a watermark on their genuine ballots. And I believe it could have been a serialized watermark. It's not just like, the Arizona symbol, the state symbol, but it also had a barcode in the watermark. And you can read the barcode with a certain frequency of light. Maybe it's ultraviolet or black light. And evidently what's happening is they are being able to single out the ballots that don't belong there. They were not originated by Arizona. The second is the electronic version. This is the official version that was certified by the Secretary of State. They were beginning the debate in Washington, D.C. on January 5th, and that was interrupted by a violent incursion into Congress by Antifa and BLM. They tried to blame it on Trump supporters. They shot and killed a Trump supporter, but nonetheless, it interrupted the debate, stopped the debate, and that was the end of it. That was the end of it. The state delegations, state legislations were not able to put state delegations into place. The delegates that were selected by the governor and the Secretary of State were the ones that were the accepted count. And so what is happening is the digital version of the count is being contested by the paper version. Now, ostensibly, what reports were saying this week is that the entire database of the election had been deleted. That was round 1. Round 2 was that these tech experts were able to recover the database. Even though it was deleted, they were able to recover all the information, and they have access to all the information. So now, that one attempt at trying to bury the evidence of their crime failed. And the third level is that they're identifying those Arizonans who are room temperature. That is to say, they did, or they live in other states, or they voted in other states and somehow ended up voting in Arizona as well, or they double voted. They're finding it all, and cyber ninjas are not leaving any stone unturned, and we don't really know for sure what the evidence is going to prove, because they haven't released any of it. They've been very, very careful with it and not letting any reporters get, a sneak peek at it. Now, this coming weekend, not today, but next Friday, the 28th, me and some of my friends and I are going down to Dallas to meet with General Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell and Mike Lindell and several others. Zach from Red Pill 78 is going to be there. Jordan Sather is going to be there. We are going down there to learn of the latest of everything that's being done. And we're going to get the information. I'm going to try to live stream from there if possible. It might be a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times on YouTube and Facebook and maybe even Twitter. I might have to do it from my phone because I might have to sneak it out, but I'm going to try to get you the information. But Arizona is not the only story. Pennsylvania's now in the news. New Hampshire's in the news. Michigan's in the news. Wisconsin. And now Georgia. A Georgia judge yesterday is allowing officials to audit roughly 145,000 absentee ballots cast in Fulton County in the 2020 selection, attempting to ensure the integrity and security of the state's elections. It's a little bit late, but better late than never. The audit will allow for the examination of the signatures on the ballots to ensure that they are legitimate according to Georgia Star News. And I think it's going to go a little bit beyond that. These newspapers have an agenda when they report, so they're trying to maybe give you the light side of things or maybe the most unreliable aspect of it. Senator Kelly Loeffler said in a statement, "Voter confidence in our election system is the bedrock of our republic. Unfortunately, inconsistencies in Fulton County's November 2020 absentee ballots cast serious doubt on voters' faith in our elections. Georgia residents have been particularly concerned about Fulton County. Fulton County is one of the more densely populated counties north of Atlanta. Files provided by county officials show there are no chain of custody documents, which means anybody and everybody, including Ballots R Us, had access to this pile of ballots. They could have stuffed it with thousands of ballots. For 385 out of 1,591 Dropbox collections, of which there are thousands of ballots in each Dropbox, that took place in Fulton County between September 24th and November 3rd, there is no chain of custody. Anything could have happened. After that box was opened, they could have made a swing by Ballots R Us, gone through the ballots, pulled out all the Trump ballots, stuffed a whole bunch more Biden ballots in to even it up, and then went on. And so the seals on the box were broken. They were not maintained. Meanwhile, of course, Maricopa County is undergoing a complete forensic audit. That's a little bit different. They're not just looking at signatures. They're also looking at the paper, and they're looking at death records, and they're looking at voter records in adjacent states. The audit in Arizona has been met with relentless resistance. My sources are telling me there are over 130 attorneys from Perkins Coie. You remember who they are, right? The Hillary Clinton's law firm that came up with the Russia fake dossier. Perkins Coie sent 130 attorneys down there plus at a rate of about $1,000 an hour. So do the math there. That's $130,000 an hour that they're spending to try to stop this audit. And so they're, taking legal action every 30 minutes somewhere down there to try to stop this. Last week, the president of the Arizona State Senate asked the chairman of the Maricopa Board of Supervisors to address 3 serious issues that have arisen in the course of the Senate's ongoing audit. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors later refused the invitation to meet with the Arizona State Senate to discuss how to resolve the issues. But unlike the audit in Arizona, the Fulton County ones in Georgia are not going to be transferred to an independent third party for examination, as Superior Court Judge Brian Amero has ruled that the ballots must remain with Fulton County officials, according to a report. And you know that's going to be a cluster, because people are going to want to lay their hands on those ballots. And they're going to say, wait a minute, these were mail-in ballots. There are no folds in these pieces of paper. Just how the hell did you mail them out? And how did they fold them back up, put them in the envelope, and mail them back in? And by the way, where are the envelopes that these came in? And let's check the signature on the outside of the envelope with the ballot that was on the inside of the envelope. You think any of that's going to happen? No. Do you think any of those ballots are going to be examined for the fold marks to see were they really mail-in ballots, or were they just ballots picked up down at Ballots R Us in South Atlanta? Or I have it on good authority that ballots were shipped from Arizona to Georgia to stuff into the election. Now, what in the world were ballots that were pertaining to Georgia's election doing in Arizona? See, these are great questions, and what we want is answers. That's what we want. So this is all bringing out the worst in the system. In fact, I call this section From Arizona with Hate. The Arizona company who is named as the sender of the alleged fraudulent ballots sent to Georgia, which were discovered in a warehouse in Fulton County, has very close ties to the Democrat Party. Oh, big surprise. Yesterday, we reported on the ballots from Arizona that showed up in Georgia during the 2020 election. There's the mailing. I may put this in my newsletter, which, by the way, is free. If you have not signed up for my newsletter, and there are about 12,000 subscribers on YouTube and hundreds on these other media, you need to go to my website, brooksagnew.com, or to americafreeradio.com and sign up for the newsletter. Guess what? It's free. That means it don't cost nothing. And I put it out every Wednesday and every Sunday, and it has in it jewels of information, research that I have done so that you can do battle with your friends. I have in front of me the label, the actual label. Fulton County Department of Voter Registration and Election Attention, Dwight Brower, 1365 English Street, Northwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, and it's from Arizona. Now, since 1972, Runbeck Election Services has preserved the integrity of the American democratic process. We partner with cities, counties, and states to provide a trusted election experience with ballot, print, and mail services, and equipment and software technology solutions that are accurate, transparent, and efficient. Ray Valenzuela, the Director of Elections for Maricopa County, Arizona, is listed on the front page of Runbeck's website. He provides the one and only testimony of Runbeck where he shares this. Runbeck Elections is a subject matter expert on the process. They are always involved and want to know more. Runbeck is reliant as a partner, not a vendor. Their competence helps them identify issues before they become an issue. Now, having the Director of Elections for Maricopa County, Arizona as your reference is not a good thing. It clearly indicates connections to corrupt election activities. Although not listed as a member of the executive team, Brian Runbeck identifies himself as the Client Services Manager, Project Manager, and Production Coordinator at Runbeck Election Services. Now, he manages the production of election ballots, the actual ballots, and related official election material. He says he handles high-pressure deadlines and high-volume production. Mr. Runbeck also made 50 different donations. How many donations have you made? I've made maybe 12 this election season. Different candidates in Montana and Florida, and I donated to Laura Loomer. You remember the kid that broke up that attempted terrorism on the train in France? You remember that guy? He heard the sound of the AK-47 jacking back, and he jumped up and wrestled the gun away from the guy and knocked the guy out and stopped that. Remember that guy? He's running for office in Oregon. So I donated to his campaign. But Mr. Runbeck has made 50 different donations to Act Blue, Biden for President, Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee between August 15th and October 30th, just in 2020. That doesn't sound like somebody that's unbiased. It sounds like somebody that's not transparent, that is involved in manipulating the ballots. So I just thought you needed to have that story. All right. It looks like we are nearing the end of Smart People. Yeah. Approximately 60% of U.S. colleges, guess what they've done? They have stopped testing for student admission amid the claims that tests give an advantage to the applicants who are white and wealthier than other potential students because they have access to test preparation. Their teachers, I guess, don't prepare them properly, and I guess that's racist. Now, you can say what you want. I think that the SAT and the ACT are designed for Asian chicks, not white people, but that's just my own opinion. The decision by the Regents of the University of California, whose 10 campuses educate 280,000 undergraduate and graduate students, resolves a 2019 lawsuit charging that the SAT and the ACT are biased against Black and Hispanic students. Another lawsuit filed last year and aimed mainly at protecting students with disabilities said that even making the tests optional, it didn't go far enough, and they should not be considered under any circumstances. So this month, when the University of California Regents voted to phase out the use of standardized tests, they faced pushback from within their own system. A review by the Academic Senate found that the SAT helps, not hurts, disadvantaged students because they can be smart and they don't have to have the money and they don't have to have the standing. They don't have to have the last name or the color. They can be smart and they can do well on the SAT and they can beat out connected students and students that have privilege. But no, campuses adjust for socioeconomic differences and admit disadvantaged students with lower test scores compared with most advantaged peers. And by the way, following those students through their collegiate, let's call it a career, let's call it a path to graduation, taking in students that score a 900 on their SAT and not making room for a student that, say, scored 1320 because he's white. We follow the student that got the 900 but was admitted because he wasn't white, and strictly because he wasn't white. They don't graduate. They don't finish. And you know why? Because they didn't study. They didn't study in class. They were C students. And when they took the SAT, because it was required by their high school to do so, they bombed it because they got high. They ditched class. They didn't do their homework. They didn't pay attention. They got C's and D's on their tests all the way through high school, and now they're expected to take a standardized test and do well on it, and they don't. And guess what? They don't graduate. They invest all that money, and they usually bomb out in their sophomore year and end up working in the car wash. Now, according to the LA Times, UC Riverside Chancellor Kim Wilcox said his campus, the most diverse in the University of California system after Merced, has prospered using the current admission process, winning top rankings for helping low-income first-generation and underrepresented students succeed. Washington State also announced its 5 public four-year universities, and Evergreen State College is going to get rid of the SAT and dump the ACT for admission. Just come as you are. And beginning in the fall of 2021, the University of, Washington State University, Western Washington University, Eastern Washington, Central Evergreen State College, they're going to be test optional going forward. And the rule change is part of a growing trend to evaluate students on more than their academic abilities and consider things such as what? Oh, how about community service or special skills and accomplishments? Yeah, that's real specific, isn't it? The decision in terms of reducing further barriers and strengthening our engagement with students in the admission process had led to this decision. Dr. Julie Garver, Senior Director of Policy and Academic Affairs at the State Council of Presidents, said in the My Northwest report, the test score requirement was potentially negatively impacting the college-going culture here in Washington, she said. What is the student doing in community service? What is their background? Really looking at the whole student. They always look at the whole student, Ms. Garver, Ms. Dr. Garver. They always looked at the whole student. You know, I didn't take the SAT or the ACT. I didn't have to. You know why? Because I was in the top 0.1% of math students in the state of California, and I was already taking college courses before I graduated high school. So by the time I got out of high school, I already had college credit. I was a transfer student. I didn't have to take the ACT or the SAT. I went around the system. Well, how did I do that? I did it by being smart. Now you got to ask yourself the question. Do you want to fly on the next airplane designed by a C student that was affirmatively allowed to come into college because he, picked up trash on the beach as a community service project? Because he came from a disadvantaged community? Do you want to be put under by an anesthesiologist who graduated from a university with an advanced degree in medicine, who was put there because he had great people skills? No, you don't. I don't care about the bedside manner of an anesthesiologist. The only two that I ever met, and it was actually right before I closed my eyes, I only interacted with them for about 45 seconds. Did I like them? Who cares? They were good. And I went under and I came back and I didn't see any bright lights and I didn't have any adverse reactions or lose any abilities that I had before I went under. That's what I want. That's what I want. I don't care what their community service abilities are. I want them to be the best at what they do, and so do you. Now, I remember when I was young, Ronald Reagan, the actor, Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. And one of the things that he did is he made all the state universities, now not the private schools, but the state universities were free tuition to in-state students. And everybody thought, oh my God, what a reckless transfer of wealth, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? He was making an investment in the intelligence of California. And what happened was when Reagan was done with his 8 years, we had a generation of brilliance that came out of the universities from students who were smart, but they didn't have the money. It was only the money that was keeping them out of college, not the brains. And so what happened is these very smart people went to college, got degrees, came out, and they built industries. send Truth Frequency Radio to its break. They didn't get a job. They created entire industries. And California became the 10th or 11th largest economy in the world by itself, just because Ronald Reagan made an investment in the intelligence, not the color, not the freaking community service, not the personality traits, in the intelligence of California youth. And it made an enormous difference. Now, of course, we're the next generation beyond that. Yeah, exactly. Steve Y62 picked right up on it. He said, not anymore. And that's exactly right. Now we're nearing 2 generations of Marxists, people that have been trained to tear this country apart from the inside out. Old Dog says, but with real tests and grades, not participation awards. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And to make matters worse, it doesn't just extend to academics. You know Tim Tebow, right? Well, Tim Tebow was an interesting guy. He was playing for, I believe it was, the Denver Broncos. And he was quarterback. And the Denver Broncos were nowhere. They were going nowhere, and they were nowhere. Except Tim Tebow became the quarterback. Now, you could go look at the films, and you could see, Tim Tebow really didn't do anything fabulous. He didn't run fast. He didn't throw far. He didn't scramble well. He better than anybody else. He didn't. But you know what happened is the Broncos made it into the playoffs. And they hadn't been in the playoffs for a while. Nobody was thinking about the Denver Broncos. But Tim Tebow did that for them. And then they got rid of Tim Tebow. Not because, he wasn't that he was a star athlete. What he was a unifying force. He appreciated everyone on the team. And the fans loved the way he led the team. Not just in prayer, but in his integrity, his ability to look at the higher purpose of everyone being there, of what they were doing. It wasn't that you had a star player, it's that you had a star team. And they played as a team. And of course, then they brought in Peyton Manning and he went on to win the Super Bowl with him. But the point is, Tim Tebow's back. He played baseball for a while. And I got to tell you, baseball, sorry to say, you just have to have the genetics. Nobody can argue that Michael Jordan wasn't if not the best, one of the best basketball players to ever live. The guy could walk on air. He was explosive. And he was powerful. And he was little, but, thin in the sense that he wasn't a Superman like LeBron James. Hang on a second. Let me bring the TFR studio back in. We're now entering our third hour. Here we go. Very good. Thank you all for staying with us so long. It is a 3-hour program on Sunday nights, 2 hours on Wednesday nights. We have all these media, Twitter, Twitch, DLive, YouTube, Facebook, and Foxhole, and our great affiliate, Methods, has done a fantastic job putting this together. It's a marvelous looking website called Foxhole. It's the Foxhole app. You can watch it on your phone, on your pad, on your computer. Great sound, great graphics, Good chat room. Everybody's in there. Philly Q is out there. New York Patriot is out there. Alar of Sirius popped in and said woohoo, so glad that happened. Patriot News is live tonight. Brothers Uncensored is live tonight. Three Beer Men, one foot in 5D. Fantastic program. Truth and Art TV, Salty Cracker, the NPC, that stands for Non-Player Character Show, and PSB are all live on Foxhole. It's really a fantastic venue, and we so appreciate them being there. And I want to pay homage to my D-Live listeners. I have loaded up the D-Live with lemons, and I want to go ahead and distribute that right now. I did it without warning because my D-Live people are so loyal. So what I do on every Wednesday and every Sunday is I just give away money, okay? I'm giving away lemons, which is cryptocurrency in their format, dlive.tv. So we're going to distribute these lemons right now. In about 30 seconds, we're going to figure out who the 5 lucky listeners are that get to divide up this money. In the meantime, ESPN host Stephen A. Smith has recently argued that Tim Tebow's attempted NFL comeback with the Jacksonville Jaguars is an example of white privilege. Oh, yeah. Tebow's 33. He recently walked away from his attempt to make the major leagues as a member of the Mets organization and signed a 1-year deal to play for his former college coach, Urban Meyer, as a tight end. And he's built like a tight end. He's quick and strong. All right, our 5 D-Live winners. Vonnie Kinsey cleaned up with 41.2 lemons. Houston Baller, 24.1. What is that? Kehoe, 17.7. Red Rover 3, 14.2. And Bouquet Gammy, 12.1. All big winners tonight on D-Live. So that's real cryptocurrency. Put it in your wallet. Spend it wisely. Thank you so much for being part of the Truth Frequency Radio broadcast of America Free Radio in just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. So it is not necessarily a bad look for Tebow, whom Mr. Stephen A. Smith describes as deserving, and says he even texted him to tell him so. But instead, when looking at the totality of the situation, Smith said Tebow's second chance is an example of white privilege. I guess he's feeling bad about Kaepernick. Smith also had an issue with Tebow getting a chance to play tight end, which he has never played. After being dutifully set up to go on a race rant by co-host Max Kellerman, Smith begins talking at the 1 minute 48 second mark. I'm not going to play it for you, but I'm just going to read this to you. Smith's point about not giving a damn about his audience's feelings is evidently a company-wide sentiment, given the steady and steep plummeting of ESPN's ratings over the years as the network continues its quest to turn anything and everything into a political or racial issue. I think we had a Top Chat contribution. I saw it. Well, maybe it was just a subscription, which I also greatly appreciate. We have about 12,000 subscribers on YouTube. But YouTube, they don't treat us so well. You know, I'm not beautiful. I'm not a YouTube star. YouTube star department hasn't chosen me for anything. I get beat up by the YouTube police every now and then for getting, a little bit too controversial. And they turn off my notifications, same as they do everybody else. But I enjoy the people that come. All you people in the chat room just light up my day, and you make it worth the while to come here. I don't do this for the money, obviously. I am a professional engineer, work every single day, 70 hours a week for the Fortune 500 consulting. So this has been a hobby now for 17 years. But I am trying to raise money to conduct a GoFundMe campaign to raise the money for the North Pole Inner Earth expedition. And it is an important thing. It's one of those scientific expeditions that we talk about all the time. It's at NPIE.com, NPIEE.com, stands for North Pole Inner Earth Expedition.com. And you know what? You should go with us. You should go with us. Now, I don't care if you get seasickness, because we are going to be facing 100-foot seas. That's no fun for anybody. But you can watch. You don't have to spend $25,000 for a seat on this boat, because that's what it costs per person. But you can spend $49 and watch the whole thing live, streaming from anywhere from 2 to 4 channels, straight from the satellite from the ship. Now, I think that's a good gig myself. But in order to reach, not 12,000, we have to reach 40 million of our enthusiasts all around the world. That's how many people, 17 million people watched our first film that we put out in Japan on Nippon Television Network. And so we know the interest is out there. What we need to do is reach them and ask them to send us a quarter so that we can afford to lease the ship, which is about a $3.5 million deal, plus be able to get 100 scientists from their universities to the ship and home again with all their gear, and then do the post-production work to put together the photo documentaries and videos that will be the basis for this magnificent expedition, which has never been done before. I'm a little short when it comes to financing this whole thing myself, but I have been doing it. For the last 10 years, I have been financing it out of my back pocket. If I could do it, I would do it, and I don't need to go to anybody for the money. But I kind of think that if the community participates in it, then it'll be worth something. They will get their name in the credits. They'll be part of the experience. So all you have to do is go to the website, check it out. Just check it out. And if it moves you, if you say, yeah, I'll give $6 a month to that, wonderful. Do that. There are perks that come with that through Patreon. You get free copies of the books. You get free audio books. You get all kinds of other privileges. And you even get access to the streaming from the ship. So all the money, and by the way, Zizabug just put in a good contribution on YouTube. I appreciate that so much. This all goes into a separate account. All of it's audited. It comes in through what's called Google AdSense. All these YouTube and other contributions go into Google AdSense. And once a month, they send me the money. And then I transfer that money from one account into the other account where it sits. And some of it earns interest. Some of it's in the stock market. Some of it's in silver. We don't just let it sit in the checking account. We are trying to grow it and help the cause out. But when we get to $60,000 in that account, then we're going to kick off the GoFundMe. Look, I don't care what anyone's told you. You have maybe heard some rumors, and that's all they are, is rumors. If you want to raise money with GoFundMe, to make the initial campaign is $30,000. Okay? Once the initial campaign is done, it's very smart to do marketing on top of that. That's what the other $30,000 is for. So that $60,000 is designed to raise $1.5 million by using GoFundMe to get to that audience of 40 million people. If we get to that audience of 40 million people, they will respond. But you know what? They don't know anything about this. They don't know shit from Shinola on the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. They never heard of it other than the film we put out 10 years ago, or actually 14 years ago now. We won the Genes of Galileo contest in 2007, and we got a pretty good bonus out of it, and we spent that money producing the film. So we don't want to do that again. What we want to do is reach these people so that we can put the deposit on the ship by this October. So right now it's May. That gives us 5 months to raise the money to put the deposit on the ship. And then we have another 5 months, that's March of the following year, of 2022, to put the balance of the money in place, which is about another $1.8 million, which can be done. Because once we put the deposit on the ship, it creates momentum, okay? Success breeds success. And then we will pull this expedition off. It's never been done before. Nobody's ever sailed these seas before. Nobody's ever seen what we're going to see before. We might just see whales and ice and big seas, but what if we don't? The point is, why don't we go and see? Quit all the, channeling and, imagination and animations and rumors. Stop it. Let's just go see. Nobody has ever done it. Let's lease the boat and go, okay? It's an Arctica class vessel. It can make it. Just check out the website, all right? Enough said. Let's move on. So this thing about Tim Tebow is, if Tebow being white wasn't the reason why he was given a tryout, according to Smith, then what the hell is the point of Smith's rant here? Where's the white privilege? There certainly is privilege. Tebow and Meyer produced national championships together. A Heisman Trophy, by the way. He's a winner. And they're good friends. There's no question the history and relationship are what led to a 33-year-old getting a chance to play a position he never played before. Certainly, no other 33-year-old washed-up quarterback would get a chance to come back at a different position. But, Smith admits, that opportunity was not based on race. So, after bizarrely calling Tebow deserving of his opportunity and then attacking the whole thing as a fraud, Smith then ices the contradictory schizophrenic cake by admitting race had nothing to do with Tebow's tryout while still calling the whole thing an example of white privilege. The problem with Smith is that he says the quiet things out loud, such as revealing his friendly and entirely appropriate text message to Tebow and admitting that race played no role in his tryout. The trick with being a jerk or a controversial clickbait guy is that you have to be all in, or people can find the holes in your game, Mr. Smith. And ESPN, Smith's employer, clearly wants him to be the network's racial antagonist in chief. The problem is, Smith, really not that guy. But those $8 million paychecks, they sure are nice, aren't they, Mr. Smith? Kind of crazy, isn't it, to make $8 million a year talking about sports? Wow. I think you should make $8 million a year playing the sport. That's a good idea, isn't it? All right, next story. Of the people, a majority of U.S. likely voters prefer a smaller government with fewer services and lower taxes. That's what a Rasmussen survey released a couple days ago found out. The survey, taken on the 17th of May, 1,000 likely voters, that's a pretty good sampling. They were asked if they preferred a more active government with more services and higher taxes or a smaller government with fewer services and lower taxes. Well, I was a little surprised. I thought it would be higher than this, but 55% said they prefer smaller government, fewer services, lower taxes. And actually, I was astonished at this number. 37% chose a more active government with more services and higher taxes. I thought it would be like 20%. Obviously, these 37% don't have jobs. Predictably, opinions were sharply divided on, as you might guess, party lines. 57% of Democrats supported a more active government, 78% of Republicans choosing smaller government, 56% of independents sided with the majority of Republicans, smaller government, lower taxes. 51% of non-white voters preferred a smaller government, as do the plurality of black voters, specifically 46%. According to the survey, the vast majority of respondents, 68%, said the government does not spend taxpayer money wisely or carefully, and only 18% actually think it does. That number's kind of shocking. I thought it would be much lower than that. So Virtual Joe's strongest supporters are most likely to prefer more government and to think government spends taxpayer money wisely. Among voters who strongly approve of Virtual Joe's performance as president, and they surveyed that, 75% prefer a more active government with more services and higher taxes. Well, there you have it. Among voters who strongly disapprove of Virtual Joe's performance, 92% prefer a smaller government with fewer services, lower taxes, and 95% believe government does not spend taxpayer money wisely and carefully. That's irrefutable, Earth Explorers. Irrefutable. I don't care if there is a plus or minus 3% error in the survey. It is not even close. And as expected, and as many of you have said in the chat room and also in social media, we're getting ready for Corona Round 2. Former HSS Assistant Secretary and Administrator Brett Giroy, maybe a Giroy, I think that's what it is. He said it's very possible the United States funded gain-of-function research on coronavirus, and that this sort of research is probably still ongoing there, and in a number of other labs in China and probably around the world, many of whom we probably fund. Are you surprised? Not me. He said, I think very clearly, back in 2014-2015 era, the National Institute of Health was funding research that was published, and we know about it, about gain-of-function mutations on this type of virus. And I think there's a lot of investigation that needs to be done. If you look at the series of grants that were funded, they all talked about bats. They all talked about coronavirus. But I would not let dimes, he said, I would bet dimes to donuts, as they say, that the National Institute of Health does not have records, and they don't have controls to understand exactly what was done. So it's very possible that we did fund this research. He goes on to say, it's not just about funding good science. There are implications to what gets funded. There's danger, a worldwide pandemic that could have arisen because of it. There's a potential for funding biological weapons that could be used against our allies. So it's not just about getting a good grant in and everybody saying, hey, this is great, let's fund it. I think we need a congressional investigation, as if that's going to go anywhere. Honestly, if I hear the word investigation again, I think I'm going to be violently ill. We are tired of investigations. You know what we want? We want arrests. We want arrests. We need specific oversight, yeah, but all that's government doublespeak. Send in the cops. Send in the marshals. That's what'll fix it. He said, I do share the assessment of the Republican Security Committee that most likely origin of this virus was the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So it turns out that they're suing Donald Trump for $21 million because he said the origin of the virus is China. Yeah, I think it's pretty incontrovertible. Brad M., thank you. He said, thanks for having Celestine Starr on your show. And I'm so glad to have her. She's brilliant. She's a great personality. She's a bright star, hence her last name, Celestine Starr. And you should meet her. You should come out and meet her. She's a great presence. I enjoyed meeting her face-to-face last summer and look forward to it again. Let's see. Old Dog says, is that film available to be seen anywhere? You got to be more specific. I don't know what film you're referring to. I think I do, but I don't want to answer your question because give me a little bit more information. In the meantime, let's see if I can play this. Can I do this? Yes, I can. All right, I'm gonna play this. It should. I'm gonna play it without any music, so that you could just see it, the video on the screen. It's called the Starforge model. Astrophysicists have developed the first high-resolution 3D model of a gas cloud coalescing to form a star, and it's quite mind-blowing. I'm playing it right now on the screen. You can all watch it. The Starforge model, which stands for Star Formation in Gaseous Environments, allows users to fly through a colorful cloud of gas as it pools into stars all around them. Researchers hope that the visually stunning simulation will help them to explore the many unsolved mysteries of star formation, such as why is the process so slow and efficient? What determines a star's mass? Why do stars tend to cluster together? The computational framework is able to simulate glass clouds 100 times more massive than was previously, I meant gas clouds, not glass clouds, than was previously possible, and will enable scientists to model star formation, evolution, and dynamics while taking into account things like jets and radiation, wind, and even supernovas, the explosion of nearby stars. In this model, I think if you watch it again, it's going to loop. You can see some of the jets forming as these stars conserve momentum and coalesce into stars. How stars form is very much a central question in astrophysics. It's been a very challenging question to explore because of the range of physical processes involved. The new simulation will help us directly address fundamental questions we could not definitively answer before. When we observe stars forming in any given region, all we see are star formation sites frozen in time because we haven't been around long enough to actually watch it happen. So these models are taken from our observation of several of these snapshots. So we think this is how it occurs. Now, obviously, you don't see a lot of accretion disks in this plasma model. We think that it may be a much more electrical process as bolts of energy go through this plasma cloud, and that's what's allowing these clouds to coalesce in the way that they do. The simulation starts with a cloud of gas up to many millions of times more massive than our sun, floating in space. As time passes, the gas cloud evolves. It swirls around itself, forming large structures before breaking apart again. Astrophysicists use the simulation to understand the role these gas jets play in determining a star's mass. When they ran the simulation without accounting for the jets, they got stars that were much bigger than usual, roughly 10 times the mass of our sun. Adding the jets back in produced more realistically sized stars, which were around half the mass of our sun. By giving them a better understanding of how stars form, we just get a better idea how the universe formed. If we can understand star formation, then we can understand galaxy formation. And by understanding galaxy formation, we can understand more about what the universe is made of. Understanding where we come from and how we're situated in the universe ultimately hinges on understanding the origin of stars. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Green Jean says in D-Live, he says, looks like an old Pink Floyd concert. I know. I actually went to a Pink Floyd concert when I was a kid and survived. All right, there are a lot of people that should be in jail over this. I'm entering the last segment here. I'm going to let TFR go to break here in about 25 seconds. The pandemic It turns out some people have been caught red-handed. And what is it actually that caused the lockdown? You know, who really was able to call up 187 countries and say, and we'll send them to break, and say, shut everything down? Who had that authority? What was the hammer that smashed the Trump economy and sent the entire world running for their lives? Have you ever thought about that? I think about it all the time. It was the infection rate, right? It was the rate of infection. And it was the Faucists equating infection with instant and unavoidable death by the millions. You remember that early, like January, February? It was a fear. It was palpable. I was standing in a parking lot in line at a grocery store in Arizona, and they would only let a certain number of people in the store. And we were standing outside in the sunshine, socially distanced apart, and we were talking as people in the line. And we hadn't been forced to wear masks yet, but we were, nonetheless being forced to wait outside the store because there were 6 people in there shopping, and they didn't want to spread the disease. The fear was unbelievable. It actually hung in the air around us. I was like, wow, this is really quite the creation. Well, new fascist policies will artificially deflate breakthrough infections in the vaccinated, while the old rules continue to artificially inflate case numbers in the unvaccinated, of course closely correlated with Trump rallies of any kind. Now, the U.S. Center for Disease Control, the CDC, is altering its practices of data logging and testing for the made-for-TV virus in order to make it seem the experimental gene therapy vaccines are effective at preventing the alleged disease. They made no secret of this, announcing the policy changes on their website in April and May. The trick is in their reporting of what they call breakthrough infections, and I'm putting this in quotations. And that is people who are fully vaccinated against the made-for-TV virus, but they get infected anyway. Okay, they're playing those numbers down. Now, essentially, the made-for-TV virus has long been shown to those willing to pay attention to be an entirely created pandemic, a narrative built on 2 key factors. I know you may have heard this before, but we're all about succinctness on this program. The first one is false positive tests, and the second one is inflated case count. That's what we see, and we know where those happen. They happen in Oklahoma when there's a Trump rally. They happen in Jacksonville when there's a Republican convention. You understand how it's being used. Without these 2 policies, there would never have been an appreciable pandemic at all. And now the CDC has enacted 2 policy changes, which means they no longer apply to vaccinated people. Firstly, they are lowering their CT value when testing samples from suspected breakthrough infections. From the CDC's instructions for state health authorities on handling possible breakthrough infections for cases with a known RT-PCR cycle threshold, submit only specimens with CT values greater than or less than or equal to 28 to the CDC for sequencing. Throughout the pandemic, CT values in excess of 35 have been the norm, with labs around the world going into the 40s. All right, let's bring TFR in for our final segment here. Should be a little music here. Just waiting for it to play. It'll step on me if I start anything serious, so we'll just wait for it. No break music? Excellent. We'll just continue on. So on May 1st of this year, CDC transitioned from monitoring all reported vaccine breakthrough cases to focusing on identifying and investigating only hospitalized or fatal cases due to any cause. Okay, any cause. All other forms of death are going to go away. All other causes of death. Only COVID. The made-for-TV virus. And this shift is going to help maximize the quality of the data collected on cases of greatest clinical and public health importance. Previous case counts, which were last updated on the 26th of April, are available for reference only and will not be updated moving forward. So you got to consider 3 types of people. Person A has not been vaccinated. They test positive, and they tested 40 cycles, and despite having no symptoms, they are officially a COVID case. You stand a better chance of being killed by falling Chinese rocket ships than of dying of the made-for-TV virus. Person B has been vaccinated. They test positive at 28 cycles and spend 6 weeks bedridden with a high fever. Because they never went to a hospital and didn't die, they are not a COVID case. You understand what I'm saying? They're sick. They have the disease. They're missing work. If their employer required them to get the vaccine, that's a reportable. 6 weeks of injury caused by the employer under 29 CFR. Person C, who also is vaccinated and did die after weeks in hospital with a high fever and respiratory problems, only their positive test was 29 cycles. So they're not officially a made-for-TV virus case either. So the CDC is demonstrating the beauty of having a disease that can appear or disappear depending on how much you measure it. To be clear, if these new policies had been the global approach to the made-for-TV virus since December of 2019, guess what? There would never have been a panic-demic at all. And if you apply them only to the vaccinated, but keep the old rules for the unvaccinated, the only possible result can be that the official records show that the made-for-TV virus is much more prevalent among the latter than the former. And this is a policy designated to continuously inflate one number and systematically minimize the other number. And what is that, if not an obvious and deliberate act of deception? Somebody should go to jail. Wow. All right. One more story. We have Space Force. Oh, you like that? Yeah, this is my new company hat. This has been my company for a long, long time, but I got a new company hat. Agnew Scientific Consultants. Okay? Agnew Scientific Consultants. And the small print right here says, "The present from the future." Yeah, so that, and it doesn't go with my shirt. My shirt is X Squared Radio, but I decided to wear my new company hat just because it's cool and I thought people would enjoy it. So, I haven't planned on selling these hats in the hat store. If you go to my website and go to the store, you'll notice you can buy the X Squared Radio hat and you can buy X Squared Radio shirts, which I highly recommend because they are way cool. And you can get those. They're very affordable, and I will ship them right out. I have some in my warehouse right now. And, yeah. Happy Strummer says, "My ham sandwich tested positive for the made-for-TV virus." Yeah. Okay. Space Force versus Marxists. You will recall that we reported to you, I think it was Wednesday, that Garrison's Gestapo goose-stepped its way around the halls of the Pentagon and into the United States Space Force office and fired Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer for saying that Marxism was bad and it was infiltrating the U.S. military. Yeah, well, 24 Republican lawmakers are calling on acting Air Force Secretary to reinstate him to his Space Force position after he published a book warning that Marxism was spreading within the military. So Representative Doug Lamborn of Colorado initiated the letter to Acting Secretary John Roth and Space Force Commander General Jay Raymond on Wednesday on behalf of Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer. Lohmeyer was fired after appearing on several podcasts to discuss his new book. That's what we do, okay? We write books and then we go on podcasts to sell the books. That's what we do. Lohmeyer was fired, and the description of the book states that many pundits have been perplexed by current policy decisions, particularly the infusion of the Marxist-based critical race theory in school curricula, but it's all part of a long-standing plot against America, patiently and methodically pursued by those with a mind intent on the overthrow of the U.S. government and its replacement with a communist dictatorship. And that is happening. And if you read my book, Charm of Favor, you know about the war that's going on inside the Pentagon. It is happening as we speak, and it is a full-on battle. And Garrison's Gestapo, goose-stepping its way around the hallways and looking for patriots to kick out of the service, kick out of their job, is making it even worse. Ultimately, there seems to be no material difference between the very public statements made by many senior leaders while in uniform and on official social media accounts and those made by Lieutenant Colonel Lohmeyer in an unofficial capacity. The sole difference seems to be the ideological content of his remarks. They warned that leaders who are complicit with this poisonous philosophy of Marxism, which promotes racial essentialism and collective guilt in our beloved military, will be judged by history accordingly. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I'm with you. So the rally season is beginning this next weekend. It's bigger, it's better, and more patriotic than ever before. Bigly. President Trump and his surrogates are launching the 2022 rally season this weekend in Dallas, Texas. I'm going to be there. The idea is to remind Americans that patriots will save the republic from the slimy clutches of Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals who are turning the country into a Marxist state. You can participate in a variety of ways. President Donald Trump is preparing to relaunch his popular large-scale rallies in the key battleground states this summer as he continues to fuel speculation regarding a 2024 comeback presidential run. And actually, if you saw the OAN interview that just recently occurred, he isn't going to wait till 2022. Something's going to happen. Something's going to be done before then. Yes. I got you, Happy Strummer. He says, Marxism is a Trojan horse for an evil and anti-human agenda. Exactly right. That's why you should read the Birth Trilogy. It's all about that. All about this high sci-fi rapture kind of story, but it is all based upon that right there, that they want to capture all the souls of the world by getting them to choose their way of living. Now, he says, we're going to be doing one in Florida, we're going to be doing one in Ohio, we're going to be doing one in North Carolina. That's where I live. We'll be announcing them very soon over the next week or two. I will be at the one in Dallas this weekend with General Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell and Mike Lindell and my friends Zach with Red Pill 78 and Jordan Sather. And I will also be at the one in North Carolina, so why don't you meet me there? I'm pretty easy to find, actually. You can find out more by subscribing to my newsletter, which is free. All you have to do is go to the website, and you can do it. It's that easy. All right, there's a labor shortage scam that's out there. I'm with you, Mark, but I can't say that on the radio. I'm not going to say it. You could say it in the chat room, but I'm with you, okay? High five, dude. The labor shortage scam, there's no secret that U.S. businesses are struggling to find workers. We're struggling as well. We are watching it happen around us. There's a 13 to 15% absentee rate around the country. And in some states, like in our area around here, unemployment is about 21.5%. That's horrendous, I know. That's like depression level, but it is at about 21.5%. It's around 16% in some places around the country, but it's hanging around 21.5%. Why? Because the federal government's competing against us for the same employee. Recent surveys show that small businesses are reporting record job openings, but companies are reporting a 13% absentee rate nationwide. In some areas, it's even higher. But Marxist operators and propagandists inside Virtual Joe's cabinet have described the phenomenon as a labor shortage, and that is a lie. There are plenty of skilled people in America to do the work. The tens of millions that President Trump's economy enriched are still out there, but something has changed. Walk outside. Labor shortage is the pervasive phenomenon. Okay? At first glance, calling what the U.S. is experiencing a labor shortage makes perfect sense. But, after all, there are millions of job openings without people to fill them. But like everyone else, Virtual Joe's government, in Virtual Joe's government, it's a fake, okay? It's a fake. America has a record 8.1 million job openings above $15 an hour that are going unfilled week after week after week. The media calls it a labor shortage, but it's not a labor shortage. It's an incentive shortage. The juiced up unemployment benefits, which pay unemployed workers an additional $300 a week on top of their state unemployment benefits, have resulted in a perverse incentive. If a person can make $630 a week in take-home pay, by the way, that is the same as $950 a week gross, which is about $50,000 a year. A job that would take up at least 40 hours a week of their precious time that's now free and pay about the same. And that is not a hard choice for many short-term thinkers. The American Rescue Plan, passed in March, increased unemployment payments by hundreds of dollars and extended them for up to 73 weeks. That's almost 18 months, Earth Explorers. Given the cost of commuting, childcare, clothing, wear and tear on the vehicles, many people find they are better off financially by not working. They don't plan further than 18 months in the future. And in many states, workers are taking a pay cut to go back to work. It's no surprise that people are not rushing back to work to make less money than staying at home. It's exactly what economists brave enough to say something predicted would happen. It's what we said right here on this program for months. Charles Munger, who's the billionaire investor and right-hand man of Warren Buffett, he said this: "Show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome." Makes a lot of sense. Fortunately, many appear to recognize the government-created disincentives and are taking action. Texas recently became the latest state, one of 19, to decline the federal unemployment payouts. On Monday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced his state's addition to the list, the largest state to do so thus far. This action will be far more effective and cost-efficient than trying to lure workers back with $1,000 or $1,200 bonuses for people to hire on. Workers don't need extra incentive to go back to work. They simply need the disincentives that the government created taken away. And we're only one of very few who are talking about the credit card checks being written by Virtual Joe to keep the voters from storming the White House. Yeah, that would be what storming really looks like. People only spend money to keep the party going week after week for two reasons, okay? People only charge up the credit card for two reasons. Either they are going bankrupt and they just want to burn the whole damn place to the ground on their way out, or they're expecting a huge windfall or to win the lottery. And I highly doubt the latter is going to happen. The only way to stop the whole republic from burning down is to get back to work and stop taking the handout. You can't spend it if we don't take it, okay? And you want to know where this came from? You want to know where the history of the dole came from? It came from the Democrat Party. It came from FDR a generation ago. They made money the old-fashioned way. They earned it. Now, to address the catastrophic unemployment that reached as high as 23%, I just told you 21.5%. That's what we're experiencing now. 21.5% unemployment. That's more than 1 out of 5 people are not working in a household of 5 people. Okay? 1 is not working. I have seen it worse. I've seen it in a household of 5 people. Only 1 was working. 4 of them were out of work. The government constructed millions of jobs back in those days through programs such as the Works Progress Administration. It was called the WPA. Okay? And there was the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC. I interviewed people who worked in these programs. And you know what? They worked. No, the programs worked and the people worked. And that's not to say that the New Deal was a socioeconomic panacea. It wasn't. But in those days, people were willing to work to survive. They were offered a hand up, not a hand out. That's a concept Democrats still embraced at that time, but they don't now. They retained their dignity because they built houses. They laid pipe. They cut passes through hillsides with shovels and pickaxes. They painted, and they even cooked meals for the homeless. The work was arduous and sometimes dangerous, involving every extreme of weather and terrain. But between 1935 and 1943, 8 million workers, supported by the WPA, built 620,000 miles of streets. They built 10,000 bridges. They built 40,000 new buildings. And they also improved 85,000 others. People that I interviewed used to repair windows and doors in old houses, all on the CCC, as well as a myriad of other projects to benefit the public, such as swimming pools, playgrounds, zoos, botanical gardens, more than that even. And for their sweaty toil, they received compensation based on individual skill, averaging $52 a month. That's roughly $1,000 in current inflation-adjusted dollars. And they worked hard for it. The National Youth Administration, known as the NYA, which operated initially under the WPA, allowed those as young as 16 to work at part-time on construction and repair projects for $10 to $25 a month, or approximately $200 to $500 in current dollars. And its peak in 1937, more than 400,000 youth were employed in occupational training under the NYA. They learned skills. They became carpenters and mechanics. They became electricians. Through the Civilian Conservation Corps, 3 million men aged 18 to 28 worked manual labor jobs to improve the nation's natural resources through projects such as tree planting, fire prevention and fighting, insect control, fish stocking, erosion control, landscaping. Oh, it was dirty. It was ditch digging, hands-on work. But those who signed on were glad for the opportunity to earn money to live. One camp's newsletter titled Happy Days wrote that this is a training station. We're going to leave morally and physically fit to lick old man depression. Oh, the camps were organized, and they were governed in military style, with members of the Army Reserve commanding those who volunteered for the minimum 6 months enrollments. Tents were used for early units, and later wood barracks were constructed. Compensation was $30 a month, roughly $600 in current dollars, of which more than 70% was required to be sent to family dependent. Participation was a privilege, not a right, and the threat of dishonorable discharge was sufficient to maintain peace and order. Hard work wasn't a partisan issue. Even a Gallup poll way back in 1936, and this is going to blow your mind, 92% of Democrats and 67% of Republicans supported the CCC. There was a sociologist whose name was Robert Leninger Jr. He noted that millions of people needed subsistence incomes. Work relief was preferred over public assistance, which is called the dole, because it maintained self-respect. It reinforced the work ethic, and it kept their skills sharp. Oh, yeah, you look out there and you see homeless, but I can tell you, I've faced them lots of times. I've walked through them. I've bought them lunch. I've bought them pizza. I've given them money. I've talked to them. And I asked one day. He had a lot on the balls. You could tell he was at least aware. He wasn't stoned that day. And I asked him, if I had a house, a duplex right now, and you could move in, fully furnished, you could move in right now, would you do it? He said, no, I wouldn't. I said, why? He said, because I can go where I want. I can sleep where I want. I forage every single day for what I need to eat and drink, and it's a way of life, but I'm free. I don't owe anybody anything. And you know what? I realized at that moment that the vast majority of the homeless, and we've taken blankets and Tupperware and stuff like that to these tent cities. Some of them are under the freeway down there in Greenville, South Carolina. We drove down there with a pickup truck load of stuff and handed it out. It's a choice. They want to live that way. You can't force them to live in an apartment or a house. It's not where they want to be. Now, there are some, sad stories where people have lost a home, went bankrupt, and became homeless, but that's a temporary thing. These people have skills. They're going to go back to work. I've done it. I lived in a KOA for a summer. We lost our home up in Kentucky when the bank went broke, but it didn't beat me. We moved into a KOA. We lived in a tent that summer. The kids thought we were camping. I worked building houses. I raised the money for the deposit and the rent, and we moved into an apartment, and the following year we bought a home. I saved up $10,000, put a down payment, and we bought a house. And 5 years later, I sold that house and paid for my college education, which is why I'm here now, consulting with the Fortune 500. It can be done. I want you to keep listening to this program because this is where we talk about this stuff. Keep your dignity. Keep your self-respect. Work for what you get. If you have to take a handout, it's a way forward. I took food stamps when I was in college, but I considered it part of the student loan. Oh, I paid it back 100 times over since then, but I didn't feel bad about taking the food because I was a full-time student, taking 21 hours a semester. The point is, everything we do will eventually affect the universe. So we should do it on purpose. Do it on purpose. Go out, look for the good in people and help it to grow a little bit every day. And before long, you'll save the world. That's what it's all about. You have that calling inside of you. Yeah, you're out there listening to this program right now, but what are you going to do tomorrow morning when you go to work? What are you going to do when you stop by and fill up your tank and you go inside to buy a coffee and a breakfast sandwich? Don't be invisible. Pay attention to the person behind the counter. Smile, say hello, say you're doing a great job. Be happy that they're there because they could not be. This is America Free Radio. I'm Brooks Agnew. Now go and do. We'll see you on Wednesday.